Every year in the NFL draft, teams make mistakes. Hindsight is 2020, and that makes it easy to spot the mistakes that teams make every single year. Hi, my name is David Perez, and in this video, I'm going to redraft the 2020 NFL draft, but with the knowledge that we know now. Also, if your team didn't have a first-round selection in April, don't worry. I'm approaching this as if each team had their original first, although the players and trades are still on their new teams, such as Minkah Fitzpatrick is still going to be a Pittsburgh Steeler. But for those of you who saw your team with 2 first-round picks, I'll go over who you would have taken with your extra draft capital. With that being said, let's get into the video. With the first overall pick, I, in a bit of a surprising one, still have the Cincinnati Bengals selecting quarterback Joe Burrow. Despite unfortunate circumstances, he's still been the sharpest QB this year. He just got his ACL torn, I know that, but at the end of the day, I really don't think anyone could have not gotten injured on that play. He probably still has the best future outlook out of any player this year at a positional need, like quarterback, and at the end of the day, what did he really need to improve on as a player? He's been playing super well this year, which warrants the number 1 overall pick. With that being said, I have Justin Herbert going number 2 to the Washington football team. This QB class is super good, and it's just my personal opinion to put Justin Herbert behind Joe Burrow. You can really put them either way, but I think that the Cincinnati Bengals will take Burrow first because he fits their scheme better, and therefore Washington goes with Justin Herbert, another franchise changer, at number 2 overall. At number 3 overall, I have the Detroit Lions selecting Chase Young. They really lack any sort of defensive line or pressure, for that matter, or just talent in the first place. They're very low in sacks this year, close to the bottom 5. This is probably the best player available, and there's really no reason not to make this selection here. Detroit needs Chase Young, and that's why I think that they'll take him at 3 overall, and they would have in April if this happened. The Giants missed in the 2020 NFL Draft selecting Andrew Thomas, so I'm going to fix that and have them select offensive tackle Tristan Wirfs from the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Tristan Wirfs looks like an all-pro, while Thomas is playing like a replacement-level starter. This isn't what you want to see out of your 4th overall pick. Wirfs looks like a franchise-changing generational talent at the offensive tackle position, and what the Giants need is exactly that. With the 5th overall pick, I still have the Miami Dolphins selecting Tua Tagovailoa. At the end of the day, he was the right choice. He did struggle in Denver, but there's really no other selection here that works. He's very good, fits Miami, and there's no reason to choose anything else. Sure, he had 1 bad game, but he's been playing well enough to the point where I think it's still fine to put him here at 5. Without Justin Herbert, the Chargers are going to look to their dire needed offensive tackle. In the 2021 draft, they should be definitely looking at any offensive tackle, or just offensive lineman, but for now, I have them selecting Jedrick Wills, offensive tackle from Alabama, and on the Cleveland Browns. Jedrick can play on either side, the left or right, and at a very high level. He has led one of the biggest turnarounds from an offensive line this year with Cleveland, and he's very good at both run blocking and pass blocking. He already looks like a refined starter, and that's really what the Chargers need in this situation. I still have the Panthers taking Derrick Brown here. Derrick Brown is really good, and he's really the only reason why Carolina's run defense isn't awful, as they have a pretty big hole at linebacker, and he's been a very good force at defensive tackle. He's a dominant block mover inside, and they really weren't wrong here. Although they got some slack for not taking Isaiah Simmons, I think that this was the right choice, and at the end of the day, they would make this decision again if they could. For the 8th overall pick for the Cardinals, I have them not taking Isaiah Simmons, instead selecting Jeffrey Okudah, who the Lions passed on. Don't get me wrong, Isaiah Simmons is playing good, but with Devondre Campbell and Jordan Hicks on the roster, let's turn to their real need. Okudah has been quite good and would be a very nice scheme fit next to Patrick Peterson and Byron Murphy. Dre Kirkpatrick, who he'd taken the role of, is playing quite bad this year, and he could make immediate impact with less pressure to cover number 1 receivers as he has had with Detroit. With the 9th overall pick, I have the Jacksonville Jaguars selecting safety Antoine Winfield. He is very good. In one of my articles in the past, I talked about him as a potential draft steal. He was my safety one the whole way through, and he's played like it. He's been like a sort of a new Tyrann Mathieu, all over the field and making big plays no matter where he goes. He's in the Defensive Rookie of the Year conversation, and deservingly so. I have him going at number 9 to Jacksonville's biggest need. With Wills out, the Browns are going to settle for the next best guy at tackle, Mekhi Becton at 10 overall. The Browns clearly needed Wills, but with him gone, they turned to Becton. He could be a better scheme fit, but at the end of the day, you really just need the best offensive lineman available here, and that's Becton, who's shined in the Jets just being terrible this year. He's been pretty good, though, so I have him going at number 10. With the 11th pick, I have Jets selecting Isaiah Simmons, linebacker or safety from Clemson. Jamal Adams is gone, and in response to Jamal Adams being gone, I have them taking basically the same player. He's really good, a perfect scheme fit, and he'd be used just like Jamal was previously. He's a real game changer, and on a team that basically has no talent, you have to get any when you can. CeeDee Lamb is pretty underrated. With a competent quarterback, he has been really freaking good this year. With Dak Prescott, he was easily one of the best 24 receivers in the league, and although Justin Jefferson was incredibly tempting, this really fits what they want much more. Aguilar and Renfro can step in from what Ruggs did as a deep threat. Meanwhile, CeeDee Lamb is sort of one of a kind. They almost took him, and I think they regret not doing so. Assuming Indianapolis has DeForest Buckner, they need a weapon, quickly. I'm a Colts fan, and the depth at wide receiver that the Colts don't have is alarming. They don't have a true separator in the offense, and that's to the side of the ball that needs work. So, that being said, I have them going with Justin Jefferson, the receiver from LSU and Minnesota. And Niners fans, I think you'd be doing the same thing here. He's such a good player and having an outstanding rookie season. With the 14th pick, I have the Tampa Bay Buccaneers selecting Austin Jackson, offensive tackle, on the Dolphins. Tampa really hit it out of the park for the draft, but they still need an offensive tackle, even this year with Tristan Wirfs. Jordan Whitehead and Mike Edwards are fine safeties. Meanwhile, the offensive line is a major need for Tampa. That's why I have him selecting Austin Jackson, who, although he's not great, he's pretty good, and he's been playing well enough to warrant a top 20 pick. Denver has been lacking any offensive firepower in 2020, and that's why I think they'll select Chase Claypool, receiver in the Steelers. He is really special, and he's sort of the receiver that Drew Lock would actually throw to. They're throwing Tim Patrick out there, and although he's a good player, that's just not going to work in the future. So that's why I think that with Jerry Jeudy's sort of ignorance in this scheme, well, it's more by Drew Lock, I think that Chase Claypool would be the better decision here at number 15. CJ Henderson fits perfectly for the Atlanta Falcons at number 16. He has really been thrown into the fire at Jacksonville, and although it wouldn't really be any different in Atlanta, this is, yet again, an amazing scheme fit. A press zone, lengthy, fast corner is exactly what these cover 3 Seattle schemes want. You'll see these schemes in San Fran, Jacksonville, and Atlanta most notably, and that's why I think that Henderson won't really miss a beat playing in Atlanta in Raheem Morris's defensive scheme. That's why I'm going at number 16, and it was a rumor all along the draft process anyways. The Dallas Cowboys defense, although getting better, is still really bad, and their biggest need probably is safety. That's why I have them selecting safety Julian Blackmon, Defensive Rookie of the Year candidate from the Indianapolis Colts. Julian Blackmon has been nothing short of a stud this year. He's been super impactful on every single level of the field and has really been a game changer to a Colts top 5 defense. CeeDee Lamb is gone anyways, and this would be a major hole filled for the Dallas Cowboys. With Chase Claypool gone, Pittsburgh would really need another gadget player. They don't really need a route runner, but they need a guy that you can sort of give end arounds to. So, with that being said, I would have him selecting wide receiver Laviska Shenault from the Jacksonville Jaguars. Shenault was pretty good with a healthy Gardner Minshew. He's another pain to defensive coordinator's game plan, and if you want to be good again, the way the Steelers are, undefeated, at the time I'm recording this, you want to replace one gadget player with another. Miami would probably be taking Andrew Thomas here, the tackle they would have taken at number 5 had they actually not taken Tua. The Chicago Bears really need any promise at QB. It looks like they're too good to really get one of the top 4 guys this year, but if they can get a top 4 guy from 2020, that would be better. So with that being said, I have them taking Jordan Love from the Green Bay Packers here. Love has had really nothing to either raise or lower his stock, so in my opinion, this is really the only spot I could see for him. Chicago lacks any promise at the quarterback position, the most important position, and just needs something because Nick Foles and Mitch Trubisky do not cut it. Patrick Queen is very good. Meanwhile, the rest of the Rams' linebacking room has not been the same this year. He is a hyper-reliable player in coverage, and that's why I have them going to the Rams at number 20 overall. As well as the Rams' defense has been under defensive coordinator Brandon Staley, a bunch of band-aids at the linebacker position isn't going to work forever, and that's why I think that Patrick Queen, a real game changer on the defense, would be very, very useful to that defensive scheme that really lacks a linebacker from truly being a top 3 defense. And honestly, if Jacksonville was here, I wouldn't see them making a different choice. The Philadelphia Eagles have Jerry Jeudy sitting in their lap at number 21. Jeudy has struggled in Denver this year, to say the least. Drew Lock has not helped him raise his stock. In fact, he's lowered his stock. Meanwhile, Philadelphia needs any sort of separation that they can get. Travis Fulgham, although he's good at the end of the day, he's just been what they wanted J.J. Arcega-Whiteside to be, as in a bigger, reliable receiver. And Jalen Reagor is a gadgety deep threat. Meanwhile, they have absolutely nobody to be the separator that Carson Wentz has needed for so long. Carson Wentz has been bad, and I think both sides need this draft pick. Buffalo needs 2 things this draft, and it's cornerback and defensive tackle. And of those 2 things, defensive tackle is where the value's at with Javon Kinlaw from the San Francisco 49ers. This is a fantastic value as he's played up to his 13th draft selection and probably should have gone higher, but Buffalo is known for taking players who have fallen too far, and that's why I have them taking Kinlaw here. Playing against him and Ed Oliver would truly be a nightmare, and Javon Kinlaw's ability to stop the run in the way that a player like Quentin Jefferson on their team isn't able to do would simply provide another piece of explosiveness to this already explosive team. And for Minnesota, I really don't think they do anything different here. Their defensive line is lacking, and him with Michael Pierce, when he comes back from opting out from COVID, would be a perfect, dynamic, and scary matchup to face against. T. Higgins would really be a good player for the New England Patriots, and that's why I have him going to them at number 23. New England's weapons might be the worst in the NFL this year, and this is a receiver that Cam would throw to. He likes throwing to bigger players, and he's been super impressive so far. As for the Chargers, I think that they'd probably be taking the player that I have next, Michael Onwenu. I think that although Cesar Ruiz has been good for the Saints, Michael Onwenu has just been different. He has been really good at guard, and although he's been lagging at tackle, that's not what the Saints need here. This would probably be the league's best offensive line by a mile if Onwenu got to this team, and it would be very scary to the already NFC top seed for them to get Michael Onwenu. They clearly don't want to miss a beat on that unit, and this would allow them to stay dominant in the trenches. The Minnesota Vikings are really lacking at the cornerback position this year. Jalen Johnson would be capable of the demanding responsibilities that Mike Zimmer puts on that position, and that's why I have him going at number 25. Although I heavily considered Jeff Gladney, who's been playing better as of late, and AJ Terrell, who isn't terrible either, to be here, I think that Jalen Johnson, who's leading the NFL in PBUs, has been very good for the Chicago Bears this year and has really stepped up when being targeted a lot. And maybe he won't get targeted as much as Minnesota, as he'd probably be their number 1 corner, but they really need anything in this unit, and that's why I think that he would be a nice fit there in Minnesota. The Houston Texans need offensive lineman help. The interior offensive line specifically has been a weakness. They've already sat left guard Max Sharping, who was a second-round pick just 2 years ago. And meanwhile, Jonah Jackson has been very good for the Detroit Lions. As an offensive guard, he has been nothing short of amazing this year. Super impressive for year one, and he stepped in with 0 struggles against the NFC North's deepest and scariest pass rushes. Houston needs Jonah Jackson and would take him here, and honestly, Miami wouldn't disagree. Seattle really needs a long-term plan on the defensive line. Carlos Dunlap, Alton Robinson, LJ Collier, and co. are fine, but they need a real answer that can last. Yetur Gross-Matos is hyper-productive, and the defense in Carolina was worse without him. He fits perfectly in Seattle, and this was a highly mocked pick that they honestly definitely should have done with his high play. Meanwhile, linebacker Jordan Brooks has been nowhere to be seen. As per usual, Seattle whiffs on the first round and regrets it, as their defensive line, other than the show-up performance against Arizona, has really been down this year. Yetur Gross-Matos to the Seattle Seahawks at number 27. Although Lamar has had a bad season, his wide receivers this year have been nothing short of terrible. His receivers will just drop passes and stuff like that. And someone that less would be reliable, but more that would just lift responsibility off of Lamar Jackson would be Brandon Ayuk at number 28. He's a cool gadget in Greg Roman's gimmick offense, and they love run after catch and need a position with a player that can be that player for them very, very badly. Okay, number 29, the Tennessee Titans selecting Andrew Thomas. Isaiah Wilson is not as good as Andrew Thomas, and this is a need for them. Number 30, Aaron Rodgers gets Henry Ruggs on the Green Bay Packers. Ruggs only fell here because of some impressive performances from other teams. I nearly considered putting him at 18 to Pittsburgh, but instead I didn't. So Ruggs will fall to number 30. Green Bay would probably be the NFC's favorite if they had Henry Ruggs, and Brian Gutekunst's ignorance of this position has been nothing short of laughable, considering the ways that Alan Lazard just went silent in Indianapolis, and Marquez Valdes-Scantling cost him the game. Rodgers would need this, Ruggs would need this, and this would be a deadly combo if you give Ruggs and Rodgers any sort of reps together. The San Francisco 49ers interior offensive line has been collapsing as of late. It's been worse play from last year, and it is definitely in need of an upgrade. Seattle's offensive guard Damian Lewis has been very good at the guard spot this year. Although he struggled at center, that's not his position, and as a rookie, it's the hardest one to transition to with signal calling. Damian Lewis would be a perfect run blocker, and one of the few teams that prefers running the ball over passing the ball. Damian Lewis would thrive. He is a really good people mover in the trenches and would fit very nice in San Francisco's offensive guard-needy offensive line. Finally, with the 32nd pick, I have the Kansas City Chiefs selecting a running back, but not Clyde Edwards-Helaire. Perhaps the deadliest one of this draft class, Antonio Gibson. You could argue for really any of the other 3 major running backs who have been playing well this year, such as Clyde Edwards-Helaire, James Robinson, and DeAndre Swift, but I think that Antonio Gibson would be perfect in an Andy Reid offense. He is straight off deadly, and he's really been given no passing work. Meanwhile, Andy Reid is one to give his running backs passing volume, and I think that this would be a scary combination with this player and this offense. So that's it. We've gone through the first round. I hope that you did enjoy, and some players like Jeremy Chin, Clyde Edwards-Helaire, DeAndre Swift, AJ Terrell, James Robinson, and more weren't included, but I had a difficult time leaving them off there. These players have played like first rounders, but I found it difficult to put them in spots where there was a mutual need between player and team. If you did enjoy, please remember to like this video and subscribe to this channel. Not a lot of you guys are subscribed, and we're trying to get to 100 subscribers in the year 2020, so if you could help us out, that would be amazing. Anyways, that's it, and I'm out.